Jacqueline Gibson with Green Papilio, Sustainability Consultant. So I'm just going to highlight really how sustainability, the global drivers behind sustainability and how this relates to the construction sector and the built environment. And then the last couple of minutes I'm going to discuss some behavioural style training that I've helped develop to create a bit more of a holistic sustainable workforce within organisations, because it's this analogy of systems don't save money or save energy, it's the people. It's a bit like guns don't kill people, people do. So if we think about that, if a large workforce, and if you have maybe 1,000 employees, that company needs the buy-in of everybody in that workforce. So behavioural change, a more sustainable approach to the way everybody in that organisation works will have direct impact and direct positive impacts on that company's performance in terms of sustainability, and a negative impact on the environment. So hopefully I'll convey that. So I'm not going to touch too much on these global definitions of sustainable development, and as already has been brought out, as Carol mentioned, and we heard previously, that the world's population is set to rise to 9 billion by 2050, so putting a lot of added pressure on the natural resources that the earth has to offer. And if we think about the last statistics that Carol put up, was up to 80% of the world's population will be living in cities by 2050. So, and that's a huge amount of CO2 emissions in cities alone. And actually, I think cities occupy 3% of land use on the earth. So the challenge is to make those areas and those spaces very low carbon indeed, but yet having a positive impact on the people. So, and we obviously just have this one planet, and that previous slide was just to depict that if everyone in the world were to live the way we do in the West, we would need 3 planets. So it's a very unsustainable approach, and that's why we're seeing companies like this adopting a very sustainable approach to the way they do business. So how then does that equate to the construction sector, the built environment? Well, construction alone uses 17% of fresh water sources. And if you think about in the developed world, well, a lot of this is happening, that's processed water. And I think, was it Paul that mentioned earlier on about water use? Again, you've got a carbon footprint associated with that. 25% of the world's global timber that purely feeds the construction sector. And if you think of the majority of this timber, it's coming from unregulated countries, a lot of third world countries where policy, regulation, corruption are rife. 50% of energy consumed, and when we also think of buildings in use, yes, there's a lot of embodied carbon used in buildings, in the design and during the construction phase, but actually, I'm going to show another statistic, up to 75%, nearly almost 80% in some cases, of the energy associated with buildings is during the operational use, so in use. So there's a really tough job to do there to, again, instill this behavioural change in users of buildings. But it's not all bad news. It does contribute to our global economy, so we must make sure we do so in a very sustainable way. I'll just touch on waste, for example. Latest statistics show that over 30% of waste in landfill is purely from the construction and built environment sector. So that's a lot of money just thrown away, and that we're actually paying somebody, we're paying tax on that, and we're paying someone to take that away as well. So there's a lot of cost savings, so it makes good economic sense to be sustainable. And as I mentioned, the statistic that the buildings in operation, this is where the majority of energy is consumed. If I could just ask your name. Philip. Philip here has a lovely stripy shirt, and Philip wants to wash this shirt after today's session because he's been here all day. And Philip goes out and he buys a brand new energy efficient washing machine, and it's got A-rate star in it, and it's made by Hotpoint. That's a make of washing machine for you people that maybe don't know that. And Philip buys this washing machine, he goes home and he puts his lovely stripy shirt into it, and Philip washes his shirt, that one garment on its own, in that washing machine, and he washes it 20 times. Is that washing machine an energy efficient washing machine? Is it an A-rate sustainable appliance? Well, technically it's been designed by these kind of architects. If you think about a building, it's been designed to be energy efficient. Philip is buying it under the auspices of this is going to be energy efficient, but he's not using it in an energy efficient way, is he? So that's why he's going to see his energy bills going up, and he will wonder, well, why is my energy bill going up? Because he's putting the one garment in. It's still technically an energy efficient washing machine. So just that kind of analogy, it's how we use these buildings. I'm just going to talk here about other ways we can implement sustainability in terms of what we're consuming within the built environment. So the products, we're thinking about timber, we're thinking about low carbon concrete. I think this building as well used EcoSem, which reduces the embodied carbon of concrete by about 80%. So substituting ordinary Portland cement, which is accountable for 8% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, and concrete is the most used substance on the planet after water. So using fly ash, GGBS, so these are some examples around Dublin where we're seeing this being used, so really good examples. Diverting waste from landfill, partnering with organisations, NGOs, to reduce these carbons with zero waste initiatives and driving forward, and we need government behind that. In terms of climate and energy, you engineers, you designers, you construction practitioners, you can design and build and construct energy efficient buildings, so getting those air tightness levels right, getting the right levels of insulation, and integrating the active design with renewable energy where the energy demand exists. So we're seeing A-rate buildings in terms of EPC performance, energy performance, renewable energies on the rise, and also things like video conferencing, webinars, companies investing in this to reduce flight travel and things like such. So utilising passive design, natural ventilation and things like that. So in terms of natural resources, we think of green roofs, biodiversity, green space, which again actually contributes to better air quality in the built environment. Bug hotels, so kind of biodiversity kind of profiles. And then we can think of these sustainable communities, so the communities we're impacting on, recruitment of long-term unemployed, giving something back to these communities, registering under considerate constructors, these voluntary kind of codes and initiatives are out there in the industry, and also thinking about the supply chain, the long-term supply chain of our construction materials. If they're coming from China, are they coming from India? What are the conditions? The processes, the age of the people that are making these products, how are they being transported and eventually used and disposed of. And now I'm just going to feature back to the behavioural side, which is called emergent training. So this is designed, it's actually a gamification style learning tool, a suite of three topics under 14 modules, and we're finding that organisations, 90% of people in organisations say they would like to be more sustainable, but only 10% actually know how to be more sustainable, how to actually drive sustainable performance. So this is a tool that's developed, we're seeing that's with the rise of ESOS and ISO 50001 to help organisations be more energy efficient. But it's kind of this idea of gamification. So it's being developed with a low attention span. Statistics show that people switch off between 3 and 11 minutes. So I hope I haven't lost anybody just yet. So there's a series of 14 modules, and they're all roughly within about 7 minutes. Series of videos, games, checklists, and it's designed that you can play it on your iPad, your phone. You don't have to have somebody there in your room, so you can apply this right across your workforce, and it means that the person doing this is more engaged. So if they're doing it on the train, they're engaged, they're doing it on the train. If they're doing it at work, they're doing it when they get home, and then you can monitor this. So this can be it'll complement other learning management systems within organisations, and it can be branded towards organisations. A very effective tool. So these are the energy responsible, energy management, and being sustainable. So when users find that actually they can save money in the home, they're more likely to apply those energy saving measures in their workforce. So it kind of makes everybody in the organisation aware of their responsibilities, but it empowers them with the tools to carry out those responsible behaviours in the workforce, and thereby reducing the overall environmental impact of that organisation. So it's fun, engaged with a lot of gaming technologists. These are some of the, you log on and then you can click on these, and then there's a series of you match things up, where there's videos. That was a video, but we'll maybe fly through that. It was just a 1-minute video. The website is still in kind of development stages, but please log on to that. It's different, cost effective. We heard earlier on that there's a lot of savings to be made purely by insulating buildings and things like that, but with behavioural change, companies can see at least a 10% saving on energy. And I'll just flick on there, and a 14% improvement on organisation productivity. So it meets your customers' aspirations. It gives organisations the opportunity to brand themselves as being greener and meet those kind of global targets. So those are my contact details. If anyone would like to get in touch and implement any of these practices, and I can provide costs and things. So any questions? Any questions from anybody? Nope. Okay, well, thank you very much.